And we'll move into our next speaker for today. I'd like to introduce you Stephen Barr. He's going to be speaking on DIY leadership development. And Steve has been part of and led and trained a number of sales teams in a range of pharmaceutical companies, veterinary pharmaceutical companies in Australia throughout most of his career. So he's managed all of these regional and state teams and has been training up his teams and had some very good results in his junior staff because of the way that he's trained them and built that team cohesion. So it's this practical experience that he's had, and his passion for really enabling others is what's been able to develop these great people and these fabulous teams. So no matter what stage you're at, do-it-yourself leadership is something for everyone. And it's often confused as being something that's just for the corporate setting. But Steve would argue, and I agree wholeheartedly with him, that leadership applies just as much if you're in the paddock, if you're in the yards, if you're in processing, marketing, wherever you are in the supply chain. Might not be the term you use for it, but leading yourself, leading your team is all part of getting along and influencing the people around you. So as Steve gets his slides ready, really pleased to be able to work with you today, Steve, on learning more about DIY leadership. Thank you so much for being here.
No, thanks very much, Melissa. And I think it's although quite a different topic and focus area that I'm moving into now. So I was just thinking through Robert's presentation there is that, if need is the mother of innovation, I think that leadership is the grandparent of the application or implementation of it. And I was thinking that producer that's using the table and other non-skilled or non-trained labour for shearing is a great example of that, and how it can apply to sheep producers in their own enterprise and business. So my focus today is really on that. So this doesn't matter. Although my career has been involved in managing large groups of people and teams as such, I think there's a lot of what I'm focusing on today is about really defining what it is that inspires and drives yourself and creates the leadership that really builds great teams over time. One of the great quotes that reflects that is from many people would know Simon Sinek, is that everyone really has the opportunity to be the leader they wish you had in a lot of cases. So whether that be running a solo enterprise of sheep in the UK, Australia, New Zealand, Canada or America or any other country that you might be present in today, is that it really gives you what I'm going to talk through today are really some practical tools in the way that you might be able to lead your own business, and that might be just yourself and a partner or family, right through to the corporate level and through processing, marketing of our sheep meat industries. So just a brief overview, not a war and peace of Steve Barr, so to speak, but just to give you an idea of my background and how I've applied some tools to my own leadership and also that of the teams that I've developed over time and some of the people that I'm still work with in mentoring relationships and that sort of thing. I'm not from a farm, but I've got very close connections and a very, very strong, passionate industry interest in all things in food production. And its connection right through to the consumer. At the moment, I'll just go through the few steps here. This is just my background and trainings in a Bachelor of Applied Science in Systems Agriculture, what was then Hawkesbury Ag College in Sydney. And then most of my career has been in sales and, as Melissa said, in veterinary pharmaceuticals and animal nutrition and animal health for companies like Virbac and also Zoetis. In sales training, not only sales roles, but through to being a sales manager, and also capacity in upskilling individuals in sales environments, not only in their selling skills, in the way that they sell products and solve problems for animal health problems for producers, but just in self-development as well. That prompted me to take a lot of that experience and passion for our industry and skill, and enable people that are in our great industry to start up my own business today. And I'm spending some time here in Victoria, in Southern Australia, with an Australian-based animal health company, and exactly that, and developing the skills of their employees and in the field, and visiting various farms in the last 48 hours in and around Victoria, and many of the veterinary clinics that service the sheep industries. So it's quite pointed that I round out my trip in Southern Australia with visiting and talking to you all this morning via Zoom. And last but not least, my own very small scale farm gives me that taste of the wannabe farmer, so to speak. But it's really something that's is quite a big part of what I do outside of my work time as well, when I'm not travelling. So I want to start off today is really I want to ask everyone a question, and perhaps use the chat here. Is that I want people to in the chat there just type in what they regard or what they think the most essential requirements of leadership are. What are those real? What are the things that really make great leadership? So if you can type a few answers there into the chat, that'd be greatly appreciated. That's great. Compassion, yep. Encourage and empower others, being approachable. Authenticity, that's great. And empathy, showing stability and listening and curiosity. Thanks, Megan. Giving opportunities. There's some great answers in there. And being clear, that's great. Exactly. Well, one of the very simple things that's actually required is from leadership is actually having followers. And by that, I don't mean lemmings that simply follow you over maybe into potential dangerous situations that are not informed, but those that actually are not motivated by you. I don't believe that you can motivate those around you. They have to come to you with your own, or join your tribe, so to speak, with their own level of motivation. But they really need to be inspired and enabled to follow you, and maybe follow the organisation that you work for to achieve what the greater goal or the greater good for the cause that they actually are working toward. So it's up to your own leadership, if you're in that position of leadership, taking care of those people that are in your charge. Is that you really need that fellowship. It's not really a word, but you really need that fellowship, and how you generate that and how you build that really determines the success of your own sheep enterprise, your own marketing agency, your own sales organisation, your own industry body, those sorts of things. So it's really all about how we really steer the followers and how they actually want to come with us on the journey that we want to partake in. The question is how do you start your own journey? And I think this is where it really starts, the clarity and purpose around yourself as leader, and how you what are the key things that actually drive yourself, and really, I guess, for one of the better words, is providing that fire in the belly to really drive what it is that you set out to achieve each day. There is this pyramid here is from Patrick Laconi's book, which is actually called The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, and this is the positive side of the 5 functions of a team. 5 functions of a highly performing team is where they're focused on the results. They hold each other accountable. They have complete commitment and no fear of conflict, and high levels of trust. Those things, they sound all, you might say we've got those at all different levels, in an organisation or the business that you're operating in. But it's my belief that the intent to work on these things and take time out to actually focus on these things with intent and not just let them organically grow is really critical to the success and performance of the individuals and then also the team later on. The flip side of that is that the negative behaviours that can detract from achieving these things in these 5 functions that lead to or can lead to success, and in most situations lead to success, are some of the things that you might see there. And I think that while status and ego sometimes gets a bad rap, there's certainly places for those sorts of things in organisations. Is really can't have the lunatics in charge of the asylum in a lot of cases, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way towards team members that might be part of your organisation, but it's important still to have some of the hierarchical structure in place to achieve success. And it's important that the leader maintains there was clarity mentioned there in one of the key things that need to be communicated by a leader, and having the standards and expectations and clarity of the purpose and the direction of an organisation or a small business is really important to the way that they may succeed and work towards the common goal, or sometimes the big, hairy, audacious goal, BHAG, you might have heard the term. But one of the most destructive things can be fake harmony and invulnerability in actually achieving really quite high levels of success, or even acceptable levels of success. And this really comes down to the level of connectivity and the strength in the relationship between not only the individual team members, but also where you as a leader may sit within the business. And again, this does apply to and it may require just to draw the connections out a little bit more, but to a farming organisation, which might be just 2 people in a business, but these things really do have a critical level of impact upon what it is you're trying to achieve as a production enterprise. This is one of the tools that has been quite instrumental, and it's not this is not something that there's a theory on leadership or development of relationships that I've developed myself. This is part of a program that I've been through over the last and in and out of training and development of individuals around this particular model. The relationship pyramid is a concept that was developed by a guy by the name of Ray McLean here in Australia, who runs an organisation called Leading Teams. And he's formed a business, and a very successful business that trains around the function of leadership on this strength in professional relationships. And this is a professional relationship that not necessarily may focus on feelings about your deepest and innermost thought about your personal life. This is just simply about having clear, constructive relationships that have got no fear of retribution or misunderstanding about the intent of what it is that the organisation is trying to achieve through actually communicating what is it that's really going on here inside our team that's maybe affecting or limiting our performance. And just for a minute, I want you to think about this relationship pyramid. And if you've got a piece of paper in front of you, and this is an exercise that I've been through a couple of times now, is when I've been working a part of teams, is putting the initials of individuals that I may work with or around and along the side of this pyramid, and placing where I see my relationship might be with them. And that might be I might be at grunt or nod. I don't really know the person that works in an organisation, especially in large corporate organisations, which I've worked for previously. There might be simple things, around the coffee machine of stuff, water, stuff, things and weather, and always talking and focusing on others. But it's when you still start to move into literally the pointy end. This is where it can be dangerous if it's not if you haven't had the building of the relationship over time. But it can be very, very powerful for the success of a team and the success of a leader to really focus in on this pointy zone with their team. And this is where the real genuine conversations not challenging conversations or talking about the hard conversations. Sometimes these things are genuine conversations are misinterpreted as being really an uncomfortable thing, and we just don't want to go there. But there really can be the limitation on the success of an organisation or a team. So, from my perspective, just reflecting back to the practical application of this can, in a farming organisation, I think can impact from the 2 or 3 people right through to the team of people that might be there, but also the frequent interacts. They may be agents or those that support the sale of product, or customers that you may have some direct marketing or direct sales of product to. But just thinking about those people that influence your operation or your business, and how you would like to improve the relationship. And just to be clear, again, as I said, I quite often have put the initials of individuals in each of these zones, and I've looked at that and said, well, am I happy with that? Well, what's the outcome of this particular individual still being at grunt or nod on not only my business or my working situation, but what's the impact? What's the potential downside or impact upon them that would make me want to reevaluate how I manage that relationship, or would like to improve it? So, just with that relationship pyramid in mind, I just want to move into a couple of breakout rooms now that have been pre-assigned. So I want you to, and this will require the vulnerability, no real skeletons required. You don't really need to reveal those deep, dark secrets from within. But in each of the groups, I just need a volunteer from one of those groups to nominate themselves to be sort of, or got to know more within the group. So they might sort of just share some information about themselves. And I'd like to come back after you've asked that person a few questions, just to get to know them, and maybe if someone from that particular group could describe that particular person. I think just trying out, what it's like to actually get to know someone from scratch. As I said, I don't expect some deep and innermost thoughts, but just a few questions of that individual. It'd be great to get to know them and then I'm going to come back with a second round, and we're going to try it again with a little bit of a different method. So I believe, Melissa, that the instructions here are going to be held up on the screen when we go into those breakout rooms, or they're going to be shared with those breakout rooms.
We're hoping so. So the instructions are: find a volunteer in your group, and the rest of you find out about them. Just imagine you're meeting this new colleague, and we'll give you a few minutes just to find out as much as you can. And maybe when we come back, we can think about, do you know them like a grunt, or do you know them like yourself, or where on that pyramid of Steve's do you know this person? So one volunteer, and the rest of the group get to meet them.
Great, thanks, Melissa.
But as far as in my group, we had a good discussion. But if I was to say, did I really get to know my person? I'd say, oh, kind of. I got an official job title. That's about all. So just unmute yourself and see how we went.
Well, we had a little few technical issues, but we nominated Fred without him even knowing. And so we got to know Fred. He was 72 years old and still in the sheep industry, despite some earlier challenges with his father's farm and the dairy side of it.
Excellent.
When groups report back and share, it'd be great if you could turn on your camera, so that then we can see you and hear you as you share from your group.
Well, in our group, John asked a couple of questions. John, are you there on that you can share what we found out about our member in our group? I actually don't want to mention a name because it starts to give away.
Yeah, well, we met Wiley in our group of Coyote Ranch. So for us, for me, there was kind of the Wiley Coyote, and her name is associated with the two run together. That was good, and we learned a little bit about her sheep operation that she runs currently. So we got some humor and some practical.
So I think that's great, and it's a great example of how we get to know people, and obviously over a Zoom technology, we've all experienced numerous Zoom meetings over the last couple of years, and I think it's also points out that there's more intent and more efforts required to actually get to know people, and putting that back into a leadership and also a team context. It does present some challenges, and I think that this to me only highlights what was already needed, and is that for really high performing teams or an organisation to achieve its goals and people to work together better, that level of trust needs to be accelerated by developing that relationship. The emphasis that for some reason the emphasis needs to be put back on actually being putting more intent behind getting to know the individuals around us. So we're going to go back to, I'll share my screen again just to show you where we're going with the next activity, where we focus a little bit more on putting a little bit more intent on it, and we're probably ramping things up a little bit more and getting towards that pointy end of talking about feelings in this situation. But again, no skeletons required, but we're going to go back into those same groups this time. But I want you to ask a couple of questions that provide, they're pointed questions. They're actually, they might be questions that you might actually ask once you get a person to know a person, certainly beyond the grunt or nod stage. So we're going to go back into those groups in a moment when Chloe puts us in there, and I want you to ask the same questions of your volunteer about what was the best holiday or vacation or trip or adventure they've ever taken. And the second one is what is your most valued possession and why? Then I'm going to get to come back in the group, and we'll share again, and we'll see what the outcome of getting to know our individuals is like. So Chloe, can you put us over in those rooms again?
Absolutely. Rooms are open. Enjoy.
Chloe, some very good insights in our group as well. So I might go to the other group and hear what their experiences were about asking those couple of questions.
Well, our group, it was very different. I feel like I got to know a person and understand the things that make them excited, and a little bit of and actually got to see them light up with joy. So different to just the official, this is my title, this is where I work. No longer at grunting stage. We're actually communicating, connecting.
Similar story.
We would agree with that. Our volunteer shared some really quite interesting stories about his time in Tunisia, where he was meant to be teaching, but he ended up doing a lot of other things, like working with road crews in an olive orchard. And in terms of we got a bit more detail about, his what he values, and that was obviously his forest and plant, his property, which consists of forest and plants, and importantly up there in Canada, maple sugar.
Very important.
And we wouldn't have learnt that, I don't think, if we hadn't had those questions. So very interesting.
Any other comments from the other group? So in my group, again, we got to know Wiley a little bit more, and certainly the impact of those more directed questions is uncovered that Wiley's an avid traveller. She's actually been down here to Australia and to New Zealand, and likes to combine her trips with agricultural events. So she swam with the dolphins in Monkey Mire and in Western Australia, which is a fantastic experience, I believe. I've never done it myself, but she's also travelled to New Zealand as well. So certainly got to know that she likes a lot more about Wiley. Secondly, as an agriculturalist, her diehard most valued possession is a Kubota tractor, which was something that she purchased as an implement to obviously help her on the farm, but and certainly created a level of independence to be able to do a lot more for herself in that particular farm. So yeah, we certainly got to know Wiley a lot more. The point I'd make, though, is you're not going to walk up to somebody in an event, or maybe someone you've not had a relationship has developed at a more subtle level, and ask them those two questions straight up. And that's what the progression is about. But my example there today is that I've often drawn myself to the idea of asking better questions. So what's the question you want to ask, but what's the better question that you could ask that might actually stimulate the level of interest or development or relationship with an individual? So I'll just go back to sharing my screen. I just want to talk to you on my last couple of points, but I hope that particular activity just highlighted the importance of just a little bit more consideration and time to a question. Helps develop those relationships a lot further. So the second thing or second guiding principle that's actually had a huge impact on my own leadership and leadership within myself was an exercise that I'm going to leave you with in some instructions around today. And this is an exercise where I've come up with three words that best describe me. And the reason why this has become important is that those three words are character traits of myself that lead myself through great situations and some that are not so great. But those three words, quite often when I'm working from home above my desk, is those three words are on a board, and when I get to a challenging situation, they actually happen to be where I have that moment of rocking back in my chair going, what am I going to do here? And there they are in front of me. And I go, well, which of those three words is actually, am I being true to those three words that I identified? And the importance of those three words, I'll point out to you shortly as to how I came to those three words that actually guide my brand. And I refer to it as my brand is because that's what I maintain and strive to represent in the decisions or the actions or the conversations or any part of my life. My partner might disagree with you that I don't exude this all the time, but these are something that I try and hold true in everything that I actually reflect upon throughout my daily activities. So my three words that I'm going to share with you are authenticity, being courageous, and intuitive. Now, the important point about these three words is that, and how I use them, you might be wondering, is that if I get to a situation where there's something challenging in front of me, or there's something that I have to deal with, is asking myself the questions, am I being authentic? Am I being courageous here? Or could I be more courageous? And what is my intuition telling me? Which way should I actually be going or helping myself through this situation, or the individuals or the team of people that I might be leading through this situation? But I have, in this exercise, I have one stretch word, and that's courageous. And being courageous is quite often is a step that takes me a little bit more to get my head around, and that's my stretch word. So if I've got something in front of me and I need to go for something, or need to put myself into an uncomfortable situation that I've never experienced before. This is my stretch word, where are taking me into making the best decision possible, or taking the best action possible, or having the best conversation possible by being courageous. So the key to the currency or the authenticity of this particular process is that, and this is the takeaway activity that I'll leave you with today. And how I came up with these 3 words is exactly the way that I'm giving you here on the screen. Is that I identified 10 people that are frequent interacts, or people that are part of my life, and asked them to ask them the question, what 3 words would you choose to best describe me? So 10 people, and get all of those 3 words from each of them back. And then I collated them on a piece of paper and looked across all of those 3 words. I looked for the 3 words that I think are the ones that I aspire to be, or would like people to view myself as in my brand that I conduct myself in my daily life. So in this exercise, you will get a series of words that are the same or got the same meaning. And what you tend to do is try and group those words and draw out the key themes. But there, as I said, in identifying my 3 words, I encourage you to seek out the one stretch word, the one that you just is on the cusp. Yeah, I'd just like to be a bit more of that, because that self-leadership, it helps a lot in terms of in your own development, the growth of those around you, or the teams that you might interact with, or other just frequent interacts, that people that you might be doing business with in your sheep operation, or your anything that's involved with our great industry. So as I said, great exercise for me, and again, it's not my concept. It's something that has been exposed to me, and I've seen it work a number of times from people that are starting out in a leadership journey, or just really want to build themselves and their profile within their organisation or industry, or the way that they lead themselves throughout their every day, even down to the person that introduced me to this actually is something that he focused on heavily in his relationship with his wife. So it's something that can be used through every part of your day. So with that, as I said, and the reason why I put this in the frame of do-it-yourself leadership development is, whilst there might be some opportunities, or there might be a predefined course available, or that sort of thing. It's really down to yourself about seeking out the information. And I think even throughout COVID, it's highlighted to me the level of availability of information, and maybe it's just a circumstance where not talking to as many people, so there's a lot more digital content we consume now. But podcasts and audio books, there's a mile of information on this topic. But I'm just listing there some of the things that have had a great impact upon the way that I move along my leadership journey. The use of the word journey seems to be a cliche, but it really is. I remember doing the high performance leadership program here in Australia last year. And the particular facilitator said, well, you don't get a certificate for finishing this one, because no one's really finished their leadership journey, because it really just takes a lifetime. So I encourage you to seek out some of those resources there. I think probably find a way of sharing some of those in the transcript, or the recording of this particular presentation. So if there's anyone's interested in looking at that content further, by all means, look out for those particular publications and resources. But that's all from me today, and I'll be really happy to answer some questions or hear some discussion about the implementation how this might be implemented on your own farms or businesses or industry bodies, that sort of thing. So thanks, Melissa.
Fabulous. Well, thank you so much, Steve. It's one of those challenges for all of us, I think, to be continually growing and learning. And I agree with you. Our leadership journey never finishes. And thank you so much for running us through some activities and giving us those practical tips that we can take away, as well as some great resources that you've shared. Thank you so much for your talk today.
No worries.
So as we're wrapping up today, I just wanted to review really quickly what we've covered through our two speakers, Robert and Stephen. And I suppose we've gone through the data and the information and the insights on knowing about the increasing sheep meat consumption. So we know we're well positioned for people wanting to eat and use our product. So as an industry, we are really well positioned for demand. The challenge for us is also our big opportunity for us all to continue to build our quality and our quantity of our sheep supply. That's going to be what we're all continuing to work on. So thank you, Robert, for giving us some perspectives on that today. And Steve, there's always a better way to ask questions to build connection with people. That's my big takeaway from you today. To be the leader you wish you had. And I think those 3 words, if we can all come up with those 3 words for ourselves to help us find who that leader is, that's a really valuable activity. So I would like to thank you both very much for your time today and sharing with us. And so to finish up today, I wanted to thank you because each of you have committed your time to be here to join us for the program, to develop your skills and networks, and to continue to grow and develop the sheep industry. So thank you for joining us at session 3. Thank you for investing in yourself. And we hope to see you at the very next event. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day it is for you. Goodbye for now. And thank you so much for joining us at Global Sheep Forum Next Generation. Have a brilliant day.